The Belize Defense Force and the Belize National Coast Guard received $432,000 in counter-narcotics equipment. The U.S. Southern Command's counter-narcotics program gifted items such as helmets, body armor, trucks, and boat motors. The purpose of this donation is to help these law enforcement bodies to secure land and maritime borders in the fight against trafficking of drugs, arms, and humans.
The equipment we are handing over represents an investment that will yield long-term citizen security progress in the region and will enable Belize to address the illicit trafficking of humans, weapons, drugs, and merchandise, as well as the transnational threats of terrorism. Today, the Belize Coast Guard is receiving pickup trucks, boat trailers, body armor, ballistic high-cut helmets, boat motors, flotation vests, and 2 fuel tank cleaning systems, to name some of the equipment. The new equipment will assist with the rapid deployment of the Belize Coast Guard's Special Operations Group and will enhance the Coast Guard's safety and survivability. The B.D.F. Air Wing is also receiving equipment. They're receiving tool bags, a fuel quantity tester, sight compass, radio tester, video borescope, and cabinets to protect flammable liquids. The new equipment will enable the B.D.F. Air Wing to test the accuracy of and make adjustments to the compass on their aircrafts, and to perform critical inspection on the turbines and compressors of the aircraft engines, a new capability. The B.D.F. Special Boat Unit is also receiving ballistic flotation vests, trailers, and boat engines. The equipment includes spare engines for the B.D.F.'s turbine-propelled vessels, enhancing the B.D.F.'s capabilities at sea. The B.D.F. Intelligence Unit is also receiving IT equipment to enhance its capabilities.
And to help secure this trove of new equipment to the B.D.F., the Price Barracks received a new main gate valued at $50,000. And according to CEO Felix Enriquez of the Ministry of Defense, these donations will go a long way to boost the fleet and, by extension, the work of the B.D.F. and Coast Guard.
Today, the Belize Coast Guard is receiving some much-needed equipment, Admiral Borland has been telling us about his fleeting fleet. And they have been ailing for some time, and so this replenishment for the Coast Guard is very much appreciated. Counter-narcotics efforts and search and rescue efforts on the Belizean seas has been very testing, particularly recently because of the weather and the growing need for the Coast Guard to be out there accompanying all the remaining agencies that work with them in these efforts. And so today's donation to the Coast Guard is very much appreciated, very timely. Thank you very much. Also, the Belize Defense Force Maritime Boat Unit, who also has an ailing fleet, and their constant patrolling of our rivers and their constant counter-narcotics efforts as well, the surveillance equipment that we're receiving, the engineering equipment for the light engineers who are constantly working and who worked along with the Louisiana National Guard to complete our much appreciated state-of-the-art gate for the Belize Defense Force Price Barracks main entrance. All these efforts have been long overdue.
And while today Belize receives more than $800,000 in counter-narcotics equipment, neighboring countries may see this kind of aid cut off. According to the U.S. government, Central American countries such as Mexico, El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala are letting drugs into the U.S. And over a week ago, on a visit to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection's National Targeting Center in Northern Virginia, U.S. President Donald Trump announced that he may cut aid to these countries.
And where are the drugs coming from? Mostly the cocaine, heroin, meth. Where is it coming
The
from?
cocaine is produced in South America.
Which particular country?
In Colombia and Peru, primarily. Trafficked up through Central America or on maritime means into Mexico and coming across our land border, primarily. We also see significant heroin production in Mexico with opium poppy growth in Mexico then produced.
And these countries are not our friends. You know, we think they're our friends, and we send them massive aid. And I won't mention names right now, but I look at these countries, I look at the numbers we send them. We send them massive aid, and they're pouring drugs into our country, and they're laughing at us. So I'm not a believer in that. I want to stop the aid. I want to stop the aid. If they can't stop drugs from coming in, because they could stop them a lot easier than us. They say, oh, we can't control it. Oh, great, we're supposed to control it. Right. So we give them billions and billions of dollars, and they don't do what they're supposed to be doing, and they know that. But we're going to take a very harsh action.
If this happens, it could be counterproductive to this kind of donation, considering that the illegal drug trade is a transnational crime extending beyond our borders. While Belize was not named among the countries that allow smuggling of illegal drugs into the U.S., it is left to be seen if such a move will influence our efforts. But for now, the U.S. says Belize has made progress.
What's important to remember is that we need to make progress together on countering narcotics. So I think in the region we need all in partnership to make progress in countering narcotics. And so as part of our regional strategy, the U.S. strategy for Central America, in partnership with the government and peoples of the region, and here in Belize, making progress on counter-narcotics is an important thing.
How do you measure progress in counter-narcotics here in Belize? Is it that you look at the statistics from the Coast Guard, the B.D.F. report?
Well, I think in terms of interdictions and things like that, that's a very important indicator. And a lot of the equipment that we provided today is to enable sustainment. So, for example, we've given vessels before, but the trailers will now help with their deployment capabilities. So if there's, for example, an area that's quicker to get through by putting the vessels on a trailer and then putting them inland, that will help with that capability, that sustainment.
And while it's left to be seen when that aid will be cut off from our neighbors and how that will impact the illegal drug trade in this region, the Charge d'Affaires says that this donation represents USA's commitment to the security of Belize.
Today's provision of equipment represents the United States' significant and continued commitment and investment in Belize. We look forward to continuing the close partnership with the government and people of Belize, as well as its armed forces, as we stand shoulder to shoulder in our joint efforts to counter narcotics trafficking.
Reporting for News 5, I'm Andrea Polanco.